The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters was originally broadcast on February 24th, 2026.
Yeah, I had my headphones are screwed up. Hold on. There we go.
Awesome. Well, it is a Tuesday morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Really good. Nice. It was a nice, cool night last night. I had to sleep with a T-shirt and socks on and a blanket.
It was cool up country as well. Yeah, I doubled down as well. But it looks like a glorious day today from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, they said it's going to be mostly sunny. After once the morning, fog weather clears up, it's supposed to be mostly sunny. But yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
I know, we spent all these years of during the wintertime, hardly any rain, drought and stuff like that. Then as soon as I want to start fixing my house, it starts raining.
Yeah.
But at least I got some people there today.
There you go. Yes. Well, for those who don't know, somebody ran into Gary's house. And so I was just watching that new movie about the couple who not impersonated, but they did sort of an inspired Neil Diamond review. And,
right.
In the story, there was an incident similar to that. But somebody ran into Gary's house, and he's needing to fix it. And so thankfully, we've got them working out there, and I'm glad they're out there today because I know when it's raining, they're generally not out there working.
Although yesterday they came in unloaded material, so there we go.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, kudos to your great team because that's fantastic. We've had somebody doing some roof repairs here, and it's not safe to be on the roof during the rain, so we prefer them to be safe, and
yes.
That's good. Yeah. Well, we're hoping that there's no rain for BIZMIXX. We have our big Saturday fundraiser coming up this Saturday. And really excited. It is our 5th annual BIZMIXX Maui. And if you're not familiar with BIZMIXX Maui, it's an annual sort of kind of avant-garde, fun, festive event. We change themes every year. This year's theme is Stetsons and Stilettos. It's going to be a lively, high-style fashion experience. So you can do either country western or country western with glam. We're celebrating the perfect blend of Pontiolo flair and sophistication. Attendees are encouraged to dress the theme, boots, hats, a little sparkle if you like. Women can wear their boots or their stilettos. I get that question a lot. Do they have to wear stilettos? Nope. You can bring your boots if you'd like. I will be wearing mine. And it's just going to be a great time of networking and fun. We've all been going through so much, and we're many people are bracing for a weaker economy this year. They've been through so many things. We're so working hard to move our Lahaina recovery forward. Our homeowners are rebuilding. We need to really move forward. Also, continuing to build housing. It's so critical for us, and of course to get Lahaina businesses back up and running. That includes the harbor and the businesses that were on Front Street, help them move into other spaces and get them going as we rebuild. So this is a way that we can fundraise for the Chamber to enhance programs that we're doing for all businesses in Maui County. Many of them have really struggled. And so some of them haven't been able to pay their dues, and they're really struggling to get help. Others were never members but needed help. And we've been there to serve everybody who calls us and reaches out to get some of the services and the support the Chamber can offer. And so this is a way that we're raising funds to help broaden that because the needs have just increased dramatically. But it's a fun night. But it's also a night when you get to meet new people, and it's a night where you can share your successes. But it's also a night where you can hear some stories. And sometimes you realize when you're networking that others are going through the same thing, and you can be there to support each other. And we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to cut loose. We have a great band who's going to be there. We've got TJ and the Maui Country Band. We're going to do a little bit of line dancing instruction so you can get some country moves on if you're not familiar with country western dancing. And It's going to be just so much fun because there's going to be some fun Western style decor. We're going to have our first opening performance with Joe Chi. He's a great musician, also happens to be one of our board of directors. We're going to have a themed photo station from Spotlight Photo Booth to capture your Western glam. There's going to be some Western games. So we've got ring toss and cornhole. So that's part of your networking. Get to have fun and some interactive time with other chamber members and guests. And, if you don't have accessories, don't worry, because we've got Uncle Vic, who does amazing cowboy hats for women and men, and you can even have them embellished right there on the spot. And Rowdy Outdoors. Rowdy Outdoors was one of our Made in Maui County Festival vendors this past year. They have all sorts of Western-inspired themes, including belts and belt buckles. So you can come without those things and just get something right on the spot. They also have some purses. I don't know if they'll be bringing those, but we hope so for the ladies. And you're going to enjoy handcrafted cocktails, a multi-course dining and grazing experience. It's going to be a great adventure with creations from the local chefs, which include 62 Market. Chef Mark, we love him. Our office is above him at the Pono Building. And Dope Barbecue, as well as, of course, Grand Wailea's amazing culinary team. And then after the event, again, we're going to have line dancing and regular dancing to end the night. And it ends at 9:30, so it's going to be from 5:30 to 9:30. And just again, it's our premier fundraising event. We only do one a year, and it supports the programs, and it gives us additional resources to further help our members and businesses in need. And tickets and sponsorships are still available, but you can't wait long because today's Tuesday, and the window closes on Wednesday afternoon. So get your reservations in by end of day on Wednesday. You don't want to miss it. Over 200 people have already signed up. It is going to be a really great night, and we hope you'll join us because it's one of those things that we do every year. Next year is going to be different, but this is going to be spectacular, and we've been working on it for quite a while with our board of directors. Also, there's going to be a short live and a silent auction, and so that'll be a great bit of fun. And we will also have that auction on our website. We're going to actually open it up before the event, and we're going to continue it a little bit after the event. So if you can't come but want to support, there's still ways that you can get great items in the auction, and I will say some of them are going to be really cool Western decor. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure you look at our auction. It'll be up soon in a couple of days, but you'll be able to find it at mauichamber.com, as well as get your tickets today and tomorrow. That's the last day at mauichamber.com. So we hope we'll see you there. And again, feel free, little bit of cowboy boots, cowboy hat, great belts, as well as some glam. So dress up and be ready to party. So today we are in legislative session, and we are also at the Chamber tracking county measures. We do both county and state legislation. And often, county is year-round. The good news is state legislative session goes from January through May. So we've got concentrated but very intense concentrated effort there. They're reviewing over 5,000 bills this year. And part of that's because this is a biennium year, so it was a carryover year. So a lot of bills. But today I wanted to start with calling your attention to the Maui Planning Commission's meeting today. This is a really big meeting. It's coming off of Bill 9, which if you've listened to the show, you know we've covered extensively, and we'll continue to cover that because it's going to have impacts for years to come. And Bill 9 is known as the short-term rental bill. It's to phase out short-term rentals and to address housing was the plan, was to address housing needs. And we've had concerns about it, to be honest with you, quite frankly, large concerns about it because it's taking units out of the rental pool that really for long-term housing needs that don't meet the needs of the housing residents' desire, at least according to our survey, and there's huge economic impacts. But as part of Bill 9, the council created a temporary investigative group known as the TIG. And the TIG came out with different recommendations, looking further into these different units and realizing that, again, not all were meant to be apartments. Some were, maybe designed as apartments in the beginning, or some maybe could be converted to meet that need. But again, these are still privately owned units. And so the temporary investigative group looked at a number of things. And there's different measures coming up today that I want to share with you. Now, before I tell you about the different measures, I want to talk to you about the process of when Bill 9 was reviewed by the Planning Commission. It was very disheartening to me. We all need to get involved. We encourage strong engagement in understanding legislation and ringing in with your views. But we believe at the Chamber that you should be able to share your views and be respectful when sharing your views and expect respect by others when sharing your views, but not demonizing people. If you don't agree with somebody's opinion, share your view. Strongly share your view. Encourage others to share that view. Tell them why they should share that view. But you don't have to put other people down to elevate your view. And you don't have to demonize people like these condominium owners who gave so much to support Lahaina after the wildfires. Some of them, changed rentals and let people into their unit. Some of them couldn't because they were booked and they were under contract. But they gave money, they gave time, they gave food. They helped so many different organizations in so many different ways. And somehow in the review of Bill 9, that opportunity for reviewing Bill 9, and sure, we understand the cry out for housing. The Chamber has been championing housing. The 2 housing forums in 2017 and 2019 were still and remain until housing is solved a staunch supporter for getting our local families and keeping our ohana here on Maui through affordable housing and rentals. But we don't need to demonize others to do that. And in fact, it detracts from the effort to build more housing and rentals. And we have to stay focused on that. Our people are hurting. And this is something that's serious. And we take this to heart and we work on this every day. Many have listened to me say housing and improving our economy is 1A and 1B on any given day. And now it's sort of any given moment because both are so critically important to keeping our families here, keeping our businesses here, keeping our workers here. We need both and we need our recovery, and we need economic diversification. So there's so much we have to work on that demonizing other people is not the way to go. And the loss of aloha through the first Planning Commission meetings on this, which were over 16 hours, it was brutal. People were crying. Local people who either own units because maybe that was their retirement plan, worked for some of these properties to, keep them up, or manage some of these properties. Local families were also chastised and demonized for having any affiliation with this. It was really awful. And so I'm really hoping in this time, people are going to really take the time to understand what the amendments that are proposed, again, by the temporary investigative group, by council members, what these amendments do and mean. So if you'll please kind of listen in, take particular attention on this because it's important. These are things that, again, I'm not telling you how to ring in. I'm asking you to ring in with your voice, but do so respectfully. Do so and let others respectfully share in with their voice. But these amendments were meant to simplify a very complicated problem when we batched all of these short-term rentals together and tried to say they could all support affordable or attainable housing. And so it's really important to understand what some of these nuances are. So I'd like to share a couple of these items with you in the hopes that maybe you're going to ring in today. And again, we need more voices and we need to understand the issue. There's been so much hype and mismessaging that people are really, many people are still very confused. So I'm just going to share some of the key things. So on the agenda for today's Planning Commission meeting, the first item is A1, and this is a proposed bill amending various sections of the county code under Title 19 that would allow at least 2 accessory dwelling units on residentially zoned lots. Okay, this was initiated because a new state law was put into place saying that counties had to allow this. Okay, and essentially, they have to comply with state law. So this has to pass. Okay, so this has to pass, but it would be something that we support anyway, right? The chamber supports it, but by the way, again, the county needs to be compliant with state law. But this has to pass, and why do we support this? Because it allows for more infill and additional dwelling units, which are known as ADUs. So if you see ADU, that means additional dwelling units, to be built in residential properties. So this gives you more room to add at least 2 accessory dwelling units on residentially zoned properties. So this is this is a part of the puzzle in supporting additional housing for our local residents. So that is really critical, and we invite you to ring in on that. I think for most of us who are housing supporters, this is a no-brainer. There might be some people who have concerns about understanding more about the residential, how this works within the residential spaces and how it works with property lines. Again, and of course, after the wildfires, everybody's concerned about parking, as we should be, and on the street parking, because ingress and egress to an area is critical. And, just on a daily basis to make sure that you have the space to get in and out of your residential area, but also especially during disasters. So, but a great item. We have to pass it because we have to comply with state law, but this is a great opportunity to ring in and share your thoughts. The second item is A2. This bill would establish 2 new hotel zoning districts called H3 and H4. Again, this was proposed as part of the TIG recommendations. These new districts would allow existing what they call A1 and A2 apartment district properties that would otherwise be impacted by Bill 9 to continue transient vacation rental use, provided that further land changes are approved for said properties to one of the new H3 or H4 districts. So we strongly support this bill because it establishes the new H3 and H4 zoning districts. This is, again, a TIG recommendation, and it's because they went out and they looked at many of these units, and they recognized that many of these properties are structured as condo hotels. Okay, they were built with front desks. They have limited parking. They have amenities that they provide the guests. They're in prime guest locations. And they were always meant to be for vacation rentals and never expected to be for affordable housing. Okay, and this is kind of key, because if you go way back to when we established the visitor industries, I mean, they were working in the late 60s and early 70s on building a visitor industry. And we did a really good job at building a visitor industry. In fact, we did it, so we started out with saying, where are the key areas that the visitor industry is going to be in? It's going to be in the south side and the west side, because most of the residents lived in other areas outside of those key areas, right? So as they were doing this industry, there was room on those sides to build this industry. It didn't interact with traffic in town. Kahului and Wailuku, areas where people lived up country, areas where, where we were doing farming and key other industries at that time. So we did that. And so as you would look at these historical units and you're going back, again, these units to establish H3 and H4 zoning were in that area. They were in areas where there was meant to be visitor activity. These were literally built as condo hotels, okay? So, and not structured for resident use. Our survey said most people want 2 parking stalls. Most families moving in need 2 parking stalls. Many of them need far more closet space. This would now be, a rental home for them. And condo hotels weren't built that way. They have very limited, what it's like to go into a condo hotel or a hotel. There's not huge closets to store all your things. There's not a huge kitchen to cook the way you usually cook. If you've got more than one car, that's going to be an issue. And many people not only have children that want to run around and play, and these aren't yards dedicated to that type of use, and they've got kapuna with special needs that would be living with them. So, and then there's a variety of things that people also want. They want their own space to garden and do other activities. So this is really codifying through this new H3 and H4 zoning. This is really codifying and saying, this was a structure built as a condotel with front desk. It was never meant to be housing or apartments. It's not structured for that. Okay. By creating this new H3 and H4 zoning districts, properties would be able to apply to be rezoned and would be able to legally continue their short-term rentals. So they still have to apply for that rezoning, and then they could continue to do the short-term rentals. Now, why is that helpful for these? Well, one, again, they were meant to be condotels. Two, it still brings in that higher income in real property tax. We've heard the UHERA report talk about the devastating loss of real property tax income that we're going to have if Bill 9 passes. This says we now recognize these units as being condotels, being historically built for condotels. We're going to create new H3 and H zoning districts to address that, and then the community will still reap, if they continue in the short-term rentals, that increased tax revenue to be used for other desperately needed programs, including, by the way, affordable housing and rentals. So this is really important. And they are only creating the new zoning districts at this time. And if it's so, this is a measure to just create the new zoning districts, right? That's what we're taking up. If it is then passed, properties and the condo council properties, meaning the condos and the county council, would still have to initiate the zoning change. So it's not a one and done. This is step one. We still have to move forward with the zoning change. The Maui Planning Department is recommending slight changes to this bill. They want to clarify some of the uses in the new H3 and H4 district to mirror what was allowed in H1 and H2 prior to Bill 9. These changes include reviewing a building permit before April 20th, 1989. Transient vacation rental use was legally conducted in any lawfully existing dwelling unit within the building or structure prior to September 24, 2020, and the number of rooms may not exceed beyond those allowed as of January 7, 2022. So in other words, not building more units, keeping within the footprint that was existing. They can be renovated, reconstructed, or expanded as long as no new rooms or units are added. Okay, so they're allowing for some changes, but again, no expanded units. So while there were two amendments suggested at the county council from Council Member Paulson and Council Member Rawlings Fernandez, they were not adopted by the council when sending this bill to the Planning Commission. However, we opposed those amendments, and so we wanted to share them with you because they may come up in discussion at the Planning Commission. So Councilmember Paulson's amendment would have required properties within the sea level rise exposure area to provide public shoreline access and parking for public shoreline access of at least 10% of the property's parking spaces. Again, these parking spaces are needed for their intended purposes that would create an undue hardship and would create huge challenges with the bill. Councilmember Rawlings Fernandez's amendment would have prohibited construction, maintenance, or expanded of shoreline armoring and required an agreement with the property owners to remove any human-made object not part of the natural ecosystem that is affixed to the land. We are all going to be dealing with shoreline setbacks, and this is a critical issue that we have to deal with. But this amendment is bad at this time. It's very problematic, and right now what they're asking for would create challenges with sustaining those buildings and keeping them in their use. So we are supportive of looking at shoreline measures and addressing shoreline setback issues. We were very involved when the Planning Commission was taking up shoreline setbacks, which they took up for a number of years. And we are all going to have to work on mitigating and addressing climate change. But we don't want to do it piecemeal, so we oppose that measure. but neither of the two measures I just mentioned from Councilmember Paulton or Councilmember Rollins Fernandez were approved to go forward to the Planning Commission. So that meeting is scheduled for today at 9 a.m. You can visit mauicounty.gov and look up the Maui Planning Commission agenda and link for video testimony today. Or you can learn where you can go and be with them to testify in person. Again, this measure was adopted by the Bill 9 Temporary Investigative Group. It simply creates a new zoning category. Again, that's what the measure is taking up to look at that. Their vote and if the Planning Commission supports the recommendation, it still has to be enacted by the county council. And it does allow the administration to focus more on housing by subsetting these out. So we feel this is very important for the community to understand and acknowledge. And we hope you will ring in. It's a very important measure. And again, our focus at the Chamber is on housing, and economic recovery, diversification, and a business-friendly climate that will allow those. Our state is one of the worst in the nation. CNN ranked us again at second to last at 49 out of 50 states as a business-friendly climate, and it's critical that we improve upon that. So with that, I'd like to switch gears. Again, I mentioned we do a lot of testimony. Last year, we rang in on many bills at the state legislature, nearly half. A lot of the staffers were saying they would come to us, and we were doing a manufacturing day event promoting local manufacturers and sharing how important local manufacturing is to our community, and shared also about the annual Made in Maui County Festival we do every November. And the staffers were coming up and kept asking, if we were the chamber team, if I was Pamela, on the testimony. And I said, well, I am, yes. And I was asking, well, do I know you? Introducing myself and getting to meet them. And they said, no, but we know you by all the testimony you send it. And I will say we have a very pink and black, very bright logo that goes on all of our testimony. So they recognized the sign. They wanted to meet us. It was really great to get to meet many of the staffers who deal with the legislation and inform their legislators about many of the bills and help them share the opinions and ideas of the constituents who are ringing in on legislation. So it was wonderful to see that they were paying attention to the things that we were sending in. And this year we are tracking currently, it's still early in the session, but over time things sort of move through the process and some drop off. But this year we're more laser focused on about 900 bills, which we have streamlined a bit through a new system that we're working on. It's a new tracking system that we're helping to test and work with the developer of to help us and others over time refine their legislative tracking systems, and hopefully we'll be able to help them market and promote the system. But we want to make sure it works first for us because we do this every year and have been for the nearly 20 years that I've been with the Chamber. So it's been working very well for us right now. And so our priorities this year, and some of them I'm going to share with you, are economic diversification and recovery, our business climate, as I mentioned, housing, the visitor industry, and the environment and agriculture. And we have a 16-page booklet that we shared with legislators at the beginning of the legislative session. We used to print that, but we decided to save on all the paper and sent them PDF copies of that booklet, and then reached out and walked around the Capitol to ensure that they also got to have a reminder of where that email went and what was included in it so that they could find it and read through it. So today I'd like to start with some bills on economy and our business climate. So Senate Bill 129 is a minimum wage study, and it requires the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism to study the impacts of the incremental minimum wage increases pursuant to Act 114, and it was known as SLH 2022. So there was a minimum wage proposed in 2022. It was an incremental minimum wage. As we all know, our minimum wage went up this year to $16 an hour, and it will again. And it's on businesses and other employers. And so given what's been happening with the economy and given what's been happening within in businesses and increased costs on so many different levels, some of which I'm going to share in this as well, the cost for business is going up. And we've always shared at the Chamber that a minimum wage it was really meant to be a starting wage, right? In business, and again, union businesses are different. You have union advocacy, and they advocate for classifications and wages based on the classifications and the work done within those classifications. But in many other businesses, right, in private sector businesses that are non-unionized, you have employees paid based on the level of work that they do and their performance. It's a performance-based measure. And what that means is you don't have disparity of work. So if you've got two workers and they're doing the exact same thing, but one is doing something outstanding and the other is really not meeting the requirements of the position, they're paid based on what they're actually doing and the type of contribution they're making to the company. And so the minimum wage, so many businesses are actually paying well over $16 an hour, and I mean for starting entry-level positions. That's often happening now. This mandates $16 an hour, and for many small businesses, it's really a challenge. And the legislature, in saying we need to do this study, is not making a rash decision and saying, okay, we're going to relook at this and we're going to try and fix it this year. They're going to try and see what is that impact? Who's impacted? How many employers are impacted? How many are paying above and beyond the minimum wage? And share that so people understand the differential. And we support this study. It's SB 2129 if you're looking for that. And it's a really important study. Our own Senator Linda Coit put this forward, and we're very supportive of it because businesses are hurting. And so we do need to look at really who's impacted, what the reality is, and before we see another increase, how do we be informed before that next increase happens so that we can make better decisions and see if there's other things that we need to address, maybe not just the minimum wage, but other issues we need to address in cost structures for businesses who are heavily impacted to look at other ways to reduce their costs. HB 16, oh, by the way, when I say SB, that means Senate bill. So if you're not familiar with the legislative process, and I had to learn it too when we got started in all of this decades ago. So SB means Senate bill, means that it was coming out of the Senate, that House. HB means House bill, and the numbers are the assigned numbers to those very specific bills. So the next bill is House Bill 1612. It establishes a business competitive goal for the state to be nationally ranked in the top 30 states. Remember, we're at 49 right now, in the top 30 states for business climate by 2050. And it also establishes interim goals, which I wholeheartedly approve of, because if you don't have interim goals, it's hard to make a big goal by 2050. So we have to track and measure how we're moving towards this goal along the way. It requires the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism to submit annual progress reports to the legislature so they can see where we're at. As somebody who has advocated for over 20 years, it'll be 20 in April for the Chamber, though, we have always advocated back in the days when in the late 80s and early 90s when I was promoting high-tech Maui, high-tech Hawaii. If you want to attract economic development and diversity, if you want to attract businesses to come here, you have to have a business-friendly climate. Permitting and delays, our general excise tax, because it's a regressive tax. There are many things that are huge that hamper us in an island state where we're already disadvantaged with increased costs from shipping and fuel and many other things that we're addressing that businesses have to, those come first. They have to take care of those costs. But to develop and establish other businesses, the more business-friendly states are the ones attracting the higher-paying wage businesses to come to their area. And to be in an island state, we have to be business-friendly. And to be, again, somebody who's advocated for this for over 2 decades, it's really critical that Hawaii adopts this now. we're way behind the eight ball. And we have to move up now from 49. And sometimes we've been 49 and drop again to 50. And sometimes it's gone back and forth. We can't lose ground anymore. And we have to keep our workers here. We need other opportunities for higher paying wages, which will support more affordable and attainable housing and getting people in housing. This is a critical bill, and we wholeheartedly support it. Senate Bill 2263, SB 2263, is similar to House Bill 1612. It establishes a goal for the state to achieve a ranking among the top 10 states in the nation for business competitiveness by 2045. It defines and requires the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism to select a ranking metric and establishes interim goals. It requires DBED to establish a working group to develop and recommend policies that improve Hawaii's business competitiveness and requires annual reports to the legislature. Again, we wholeheartedly support this, but we question whether that time frame and to get to the top 10 states is realistic. If we get on with it, if we get a working group, if we expedite processes, again, we are wholeheartedly in favor of moving the dime. The quicker, the better. As fast as we can is most helpful. But we also recognize that this is a very challenging year because some of the things that we need to do in terms of being among among the top 10 for sure, is we're going to have to make sure that there is less of a burden on businesses, meaning they will be paying less in, and this is a time when we're expecting less money from the federal level. So, do we support this? Absolutely, but we also want to recognize that there are many things on our plate this year, and there's a lot to address. So, we do support this, so do pay attention to SB 2263 and HB 1612. There's also House Bill HB 2360, and that requires that by January 1st, 2029, the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations to establish a family and medical leave insurance program and begin collecting payroll contributions to finance payroll payment of benefits by January 1st, 2030. It requires the department to begin receiving claims and paying benefits under the program. So this is creating like a state-run employer contributions by employers and employees in amounts determined by the department later on a percentage of employee wages that they would run for medical leave and insurance. Most employers, are paying for medical leave and insurance. Again, if you have part-time workers, they may not qualify for medical leave under the current law. We feel that this, again, one is how it will be run is concerning to us because it just adds more cost to run things through a state program. This is a new program, and we think, again, this needs a study. So at this time, we're concerned of who it will hit and the businesses that will be impacted by this. And we don't have a study to really identify how this will all work. So we are concerned about this bill and oppose this bill at this time. Another bill we oppose is House Bill 2367, requires hourly rate of salary ranges to be disclosed on job listings for full-time, part-time, temporary, or seasonal employees, removes the exemption for employers having fewer than 50 employees. Again, putting those postings on a post for hire can be problematic, and it can be problematic particularly for small businesses. They might feel like, okay, I need to post lower because that's what I can afford to pay, but they might interview somebody and then find out, no, this person has other skills that maybe we can use in other ways, and we want to post it higher. And if you then pay somebody higher than the posting, or if you decide that you would like to bring them on, but they're not quite at the posting level that you shared, it can be highly problematic. So we oppose this measure. Again, some of these ideas are coming up without really justifying how it will work or working with the businesses who would be impacted to talk to them and say, could this work? Or what could we do? Or how would it work? Or what are the challenges that you would face if you have to do this? And we're hearing many of them. So, again, we oppose this bill, and we'll be submitting testimony. And by the way, when I say that we're submitting testimony, all of the testimony submitted on these bills, you can find online. You can find them for every hearing and pull them up and read them and say, what did the chamber have to say? What did others have to say? What did the people who, if we're opposing something, what did the people who support it say? So then you can have a more informed opinion. And they stay up, and then there's a bill tracking. So there's an area, again, on the state website that I mentioned earlier where you can then put in, I'll mention it here, but you can go to the state website and pull up just the bill numbers by the bill number. So if you're writing any of these bill numbers down, you can take the bill numbers that I'm sharing with you and put that in the bill number box, the measure box, and it'll help you find the bill. And once you get to the bill, that's where you can find what the movement of the bill is. Is it still moving forward? Did it die in committee? Did it not move forward because it just wasn't heard by all the committees that needed to hear it, so it died? You can track what people said. It's a great tool for you to use, and it's very accessible. Our next bill that I want to mention is HB 1707. 1707. HB establishes a local agriculture transportation cost reimbursement program within the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity to reimburse eligible farmers and ranchers for a portion of their cost to transport livestock products, agricultural commodities, and certain supplies under certain conditions. And we feel this bill is a great bill to support our local agricultural entities and farmers. The costs are just continuing to go up, and they're working hard to keep costs down and support local buying of local produce. So this is a measure that will help them, and so we are supporting HB 1707. There is also two really important bills. If any of you ship a lot of your products in and out of Hawaii, you're familiar maybe with Young Brothers' recent large rate increase. They have had rate increases since 2018, and the last one was a big one. And this bill would give Young Brothers an automatic rate increase without going through the PUC, which they've been going through the PUC to get their rate increases. So HB 2386, again, House Bill HB 2386, and the State Companion Bill, Senate Bill 2634, are set to let Young Brothers get a rate increase without going through the PUC. It would be automatic and without going through public testimony, which happens at the PUC. This is a very bad bill. Really, we have to work harder and do more work to come up with solutions. This is a bill that comes at a time when fuel prices are even dropping. So you're putting in automatic increases when other expenses like fuel fluctuate, and they've fluctuated over time for a long time. It's going to be devastating for local manufacturing businesses because they're shipping materials and supplies in to then make them and shipping them back out. And even for retail, right? You're shipping things in, you're shipping them back out, automatic rate increase that don't reflect the time, economic changes. We can't support either of these bills, so we will be strongly opposing them. We are also big champions of the film industry. This is something that our former mayor, then Governor Linda Lingle, was a huge champion of. And what I loved about her plan was that she not only looked at film and television, but she also looked at digital media. She looked at music and the arts and really looked at how things could all come together in this arena. And we agree with all of that. And in some of the terms that I'm going to mention to you, they have mentioned in these bills, in some cases, the words digital media, but it isn't defined. And I want us, in our testimony, and to encourage others, when you're ringing in on these bills, please share that to you digital media means not only digital media, multimedia, that it also means music and digital art, because so many of our musicians now are finding that writing and sharing our local music for major motion films and television shows not only gives us so much more marketing for local musicians and our local music and the heart of Hawaii and our aloha spirit, but they earn so much more that way than trying to sell a song at a time online. It's so sad how music actually has gotten devalued over time as we've moved more to digital media, right? We used to buy records and we'd spend a good amount of money on a record and we'd get a collection of songs and we played those over and over again. And if the record wore out, we'd buy another record. And now things are so easy to transfer and share with others, and fewer people are purchasing. But this gives us a new arena. So let me share some bills that are geared for the film. They're geared for the film industry, but they are broader, which we love. Senate Bill 2580 increases the amount of the motion picture, digital media, and film production income tax credit to 27% of qualified production costs in counties with a population over 700,000 and 32% in counties with a population of 700,000 or less. Now, we support this bill, and we understand that by doing that, they're targeting larger production houses that are probably going to go to those counties that have the bigger production facilities. So, Maui County would fall under that. So it would be a differential for us. But this is good because it's a differential for us because they're probably going to go to these others. So it's 27% there. But if they go to the neighbor islands and they go into the smaller areas, then the tax credit will be 32%. So it gives them a higher tax credit than what they would get on Oahu, as an example, because they have a higher population over there. So you're getting an advantage for those in the regional areas with a lower population. We're getting a bit of an increase, but they also understand things are going to be a higher cost here to do business here than, say, over on the other areas with a larger population or bigger film facilities. So anyway, we absolutely support these tax credits. It's an important thing because many people say, well, there have been legislators who have said these tax credits, again, we're giving away money, but film and television and digital media now, every region across the globe is trying to attract them. And that doesn't mean every state is making a big investment, but every country and leading regions across the globe are trying to attract film and television because the return on investment is great and the trickle down is great. Often they're going to hire local photographers, videographers. They're going to hire local grips and people who know how to do these types of productions here because it's more costly for them to bring in a lot of people, especially in an island state. And the hotel rates are high. So they do spend more in local production services here and technical services. But in addition to that, they feed these film crews. They're bringing in food from restaurants and food trucks, right? They're bringing in other people to help with these productions. It trickles down. Other services, right? They are supporting hotels and rentals, and they're helping in such a big way, and catering and flowers and so many other businesses. So this is a great way to support that. I'm going to quickly go through three more real quick. SB 2796 and HB 2590 gives them an opportunity to impose the manufacturer general access tax rate on motion picture, digital film, and production, and repeals the provision of the definition of qualified production costs that apply to the term to mean costs incurred that are subject to the highest general excise tax. So it's reducing the general excise tax rate for them. So if you're doing a motion picture project and you're employing people and a client company equal to amounts that are distributed by the motion picture project employer for employee wages, salaries, payroll taxes, insurance premium and employment benefits, and payout to loan out companies. It's helping them with all these things, reduce some of the costs. by giving them a manufacturing general excise tax rate. So that, I know it says imposes like it's a terrible thing, but it's recognizing them as a manufacturer. So then manufacturers pay a lower general excise tax rate, and it's sharing them, recognizing that they are producing something. They are manufacturing film and production and digital media and motion pictures. So as that production, they're getting a better rate on their general excise taxes. HB 2269 increases the qualified production credit from 22% to 27% in any county. Again, this is back to the population, but it's a different one. In any county of the state with a population that's over 700,000 and 27% to 32% in any county of the state with a population of less than 700,000. And it adds so that it lifts the production cost cap of $17 million for the production qualified expenditures of $60 million per project, for the qualified of expenditures to $60 million per project. And it increases the annual cap to $60 million from $50 million for the total amount of the motion picture, digital media, and film production income tax credit allowed under this section. So again, giving them more benefits. So this is a little different. It gives them more benefits in both terms of taxes, and it gives them more benefits in terms of, again, it includes the same benefits I mentioned before in terms of the production credit that they get, and then they also get additional tax benefits. So really excited about that. And it sounds like that's our end time. So last one is HB 2037. It increases the aggregate cap of credits in any given year for the motion picture and digital media and film production. So please ring in on that. You can find out more at MauiChamber.com. We'll hope you'll buy tickets and join us for BIZMIXX. Today and tomorrow are the last days. Go to MauiChamber.com and get tickets for a fun night on Saturday. This Saturday, Grand Wailea, Stetsons and Stilettos. We hope you learned a lot about our county and state legislative matters coming up. And join us. Ring in, share your thoughts. Blessings and aloha for a beautiful week. Ahui ho.